Hey, good afternoon. Scott Luton and Greg White from the road, right here with you on Supply Chain Now. Welcome to today's live stream. Greg, how goes it?
It goes quite well, as a matter of fact. Beautiful day in the Windy City. And yeah, just got done doing a speaking engagement here at the Small Business Investor Alliance. So great facility, great organizations, and what a great team they put together. It's truly, it's been a while away from physical events, but they have done a spectacular job here.
Well, they lined up a wonderful, top-notch, perfect keynote, and I hated to miss that. I look forward to the replay. And, of course, what an awesome world city that Chicago is. I'm so jealous of your time.
Vicky is traipsing around the Miracle Mile now. She went and found some great donut place, and last night we had great Mexican food, a place called Suco on State Street. So
I'm hungry.
Still going to spend a few extra days here, Scott. So I will have more reporting from the road.
Okay. Well, y'all have a wonderful time. Please tell the one and only Vicky White we said hello. But hey, today it's all about one of our favorite series, supply chain leadership, really across Africa. And we've got, of course, our dear friend Jenny Froome with SAPICS back with us here. You'll co-hosting with us. And we've got a wonderful guest. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag just yet, but a wonderful guest that will inspire you and offer lots of meaningful POV here today. But let's get down to business. We're going to say hello to a few folks here momentarily. I want to start with a couple of quick announcements. So let's see if I've got this teed up right, Greg. You never know. Here we go. All right. So I've been told this is Joey from Friends. And there's an
You've been told.
So I was an oddball back in the day. I didn't watch Friends. At least
I also
not
did
religiously.
not. So yeah, and nor did I watch the other two things that we were talking about backstage. So
which shall remain nameless, though, right?
Yes,
we got to keep those secrets.
Yes. Yeah, some of those you want to keep secrets.
Right. So here in the month of June, I'm a big PBS fan. I watch PBS all the time, always have since a kid. I love The American Experience, one of my favorite shows, Nova, you name it. Well, of course, PBS, your public broadcasting service, I think, well, they're also well known for their telethons, right? Because they've got to raise money. I'm not sure if they're technically a nonprofit, but you can see them once or twice a year asking for support. So we're taking a little page out of that book. And for the month of June, here at Supply Chain Now, we're asking for your support, not in donations. We're asking for you to subscribe to Supply Chain Now or any of our other shows, wherever you get your podcasts from, or we want to hear from you. We want to get your feedback. We want to earn your review. Of course, Apple Podcasts being the big player there. It'd be great to get it there. But we also have a little tool that Amanda will drop in the comments where we can garner or gather your review there as well. So that's our June push. We're not going to beat the drum too hard, but we'd welcome your support. We really appreciate all the camaraderie we have on these live streams, and keep that POV coming. Greg, anything to add there?
That's right, Scott. Subscriber raters are standing by, so please punch that keyboard.
You nail that every time. We're going to have a lot of fun with this campaign in June, but really, we highly value your support. Couldn't do what we do without it, and thanks so much.
I'd like to make one minor push, and that is, hey, if you're going to review us, you only need to remember one number, and it is 5.
Thanks so much, everybody, and
that's right.
Love y'all being
on Scott.
Love y'all being on this journey with us. Okay, so speaking of, back to kind of a lot of our programming, these webinars, which are free to attend. Got some powerful lessons learned. Jenny and Greg may not know yet, we just added Mike Wasson, which is a dear old friend here, Supply Chain Now.
Outstanding drummer as well.
Oh, yeah. Maybe
part of the Supply Chain Gang team.
That's right. And also, when he's got a little time, COO of Tosca, which is on the move.
Yeah.
So y'all join us for real supply chain innovations on June 8th, 12 noon. I think the link to join is in the show notes. And then June 22nd. So, Greg, you missed this yesterday because you're on the road in Chicago, enlightening folks. I had this prep call with this team from Ping and John Galt Solutions. And Steve Boswick, who you see right there, he's been with Ping for 29 years. And his parents were also at Ping, and they worked
Wow.
alongside Karsten Solheim,
Solheim. Wow.
the founder.
Wow.
So talk about transformation. You're going to hear from Chris and Steve about how the Ping Golf Club Company, one of the premier equipment companies in the whole game of golf, have had to transform how they do supply chain. So join us June 22nd for that. And you may just get some golf tips, not from me, maybe from Greg and these other folks, but not from me.
You know, I was just talking to somebody the other day, Scott, who is a member at a pretty prestigious club that one Tiger Woods was once a member of. Well, he actually lived there. And he ordered a new set of golf clubs. I'll not name the brand, but it's not Ping. And he's going on 5 months waiting for his clubs to be delivered. So the mere fact that you can deliver anything, it seems like these days, speaks to a great testament to your supply chain process.
Excellent point. And I don't want to let the whole cat out of the bag, but 7 million permutations when you order a customized set of Ping golf clubs. 7 million permutations. Imagine the complexity that brings. But hey, join us.
Right-handed terrible, left-handed terrible golfer.
Right. We're gonna have a lot of fun with that conversation, no doubt. Yeah. And then finally, because I can't wait to get this conversation we're having here today with Jenny and Nicci. But it's just about all official, ready to launch. We've got for our Global Supply Chain and Procurement Awards on December 8th. That's jointly presented by Supply Chain Now and our friends at Art of Procurement and Buyers Meeting Point. We've been working fast and furiously to put together a really unique celebratory event that celebrates what the world's doing across global supply chain, and for a great reason. We can't quite release this nonprofit we're partnering with, but they're really focused on eradicating human slavery and human trafficking. And they're not only are we working hard to give them visibility in their noble mission, but we're going to financially support them through this event. So stay tuned. You can learn more for now at supplychainprocurementawards.com. And please make plans to join us on December 8th for a wonderful, wonderful purpose.
For sponsor. Okay. You want your name tied to this. This is the premier supply chain awards. We don't make money off of it. This isn't some technology company or something behind it. This is real, objective practitioners selecting the best in supply chain. So,
that's a great point. And Lars
sign up to sponsor. Yeah.
Lars Cesare is one of our 4 executive judges that will be ensuring it's not a popularity contest, which is really important to us. So, okay. Let's say hello to a few folks, and then we're going to bring in our featured guests. You stay tuned for an awesome conversation. Peter Bollet is back with us. Really appreciate your sentiment you shared on the Insiders group. Let's see here. Rhonda is with us. Hello, Rhonda. Great to see you here. Anwar is with us via LinkedIn. Great to see you, Anwar. Let's see. Peter's talking about the Moonshine episode we dropped today. Today is National Moonshine Day here in the States.
Thank you for mentioning that, Scott, because I'm not kidding. At this conference of highbrow investors in companies all over America, that was the talk of the topic. Stacy from the SBIA and one of the investment firms here, she was like, today's National Moonshine Day, right?
Man, how about that?
Yeah, I mean, that was part of the intro. She said, so I'm glad we got to mention it.
That is wonderful. That makes my day. Almost as much as this conversation. So, hello, everybody. Hey, get ready. Get your comments, your voice, your POV ready. We are going to be kicking off a wonderful conversation here today. I want to bring in, let's swoosh this twice. Let's first bring in Jenny Froome, and then I'm going to tee up the intro of our featured guest here today. So with no further ado, Jenny Froome, COO with SAPICS. Jenny, good morning, good afternoon. How you doing?
Hey, Jenny.
Doing well. Preparing myself for the onslaught of winter as you all sit there looking summery.
My word. It never ceases to amaze me that the seasons are reversed, right? It's just shocking.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. What does winter mean to you, Jenny?
Winter means it's lovely during the day, bright blue skies, and quite warm, but evenings are quite chilly in our houses. Well, mine certainly is not equipped for cold weather.
How cold are we talking here?
It gets to minus numbers in our proper modern measurements of temperature, not your old-fashioned imperial measurements of temperature.
Diddy, I love it, man.
So 32. So okay, 32 and below.
Cold.
Yeah,
I gotta break out my protractor to make the conversion. I think, Jenny,
right.
but
It's beyond me, that's for sure.
Well, hey, welcome back. Always love this almost monthly conversation we have. Love what you're doing across, really, certainly in South Africa, but really across the African continent. Love the leaders you bring with you and all the wonderful real innovation. Talking about innovation that's coming out of Africa these days. I just had a great conversation with our mutual friend Deborah Dahl yesterday, and one of her wonderful friends, Mushai, who leads the Kenya Association of Manufacturers. So stay tuned for that episode. But love your leadership and love our partnership as we work together to do it.
Yeah, us too. And thank you very much always.
You bet.
Yeah,
all right.
Thanks for joining us.
Amen. Absolutely. Let me recognize a couple folks that joined us since T-Squared, holding down the fort on YouTube, ready for the nourishment with a shot of moonshine. How about that? I love that. And Kelvin is tuned in via LinkedIn from Zambia. So Kelvin, welcome back. I think you're part of one of our earlier live streams. All right. But with no further ado, Greg and Jenny, we have a wonderful guest with us today. I'm going to introduce her, and then we're going to swoosh her right on in. So our guest today is an multiple award-winning serial entrepreneur. She's a passionate advocate for women in transport and in logistics, across supply chain really. And she's constantly seeking ways to inspire women to engage and get this work together to drive transformation and inclusion. So I want to welcome in Nicci Scott, CEO with Commercial Transport Academy.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Nicci. How you doing?
Very good. Thank you very much for having me.
You bet. We're all excited to have you here. Really appreciate Jenny facilitating the conversation. And Greg, you're smiling ear to ear. We've been talking about this conversation for a while, huh?
Well, first of all, I just think we all recognize that so many great things are happening in Africa. And when it includes inclusion, that's even more energizing for us. And of course, we know we need some, what should we say, diverse viewpoints in transportation. It's a crazy time in transportation, and just to have someone with the knowledge and the expertise and the viewpoint that you have, Nicci, it's just great to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Agreed. We can't do things like we've always been doing things, and we got to open the doors for everybody from all walks of life. And I love that passion you got. We're going to dive more into that. So I think we're going to start though, Nicci. We're going to get the goods on you a little bit before we get down to the work and the heavy lifting. Tell us where you grew up, and you got to give us some anecdotes about your upbringing.
So I grew up in a very small coastal town, lots of mom and pop sort of businesses, and you kind of finished high school and maybe went on to university, maybe joined mom's business, but nothing really extraordinary happened. It was like just every day was the same sort of thing. But also growing up, I grew up in a highly religious family and very conservative belief system that basically left me feeling very ostracized from society. And I grew up with this mindset of always being on the outside, wanting to look into everybody else's lives. That resulted in this deep need for acceptance by people. From all the religious no's, I was trying to turn them into yeses. And I became very driven. And at the age of 19, I sold my first company, which I had created, bought a ticket off to the United States to go au pair, and lived in New Jersey and New York for almost 2 years. And I was just blown away by the service levels. This was 93, so we were still in the sanction time. South Africa had economic sanctions. Madiba hadn't been released. We didn't even have McDonald's. And I was staying with a family, and they would drop a big bag of dirty laundry on their front step, and somebody would bring it back a day later, perfectly pressed, hanging on a coat hanger. The butcher would arrive and stock the deep freeze. And I just couldn't believe the service offerings that were available that I'd never experienced. I mean, Bloomingdale's and Macy's. I mean, these were just experiences one after another. And it was a revelation. Sorry. So
I was going to ask you, I'm still blown away that you sold your first company at 19. And that is a feat, Nicci.
Well, when I was in high school, I redecorated all their bathrooms and all the female seating areas and accommodation areas because I just thought they were awfully ugly. And I raised money and went and had that done. So from a very early age, I think my mom recalls a story when I was 3, telling my grandmother how I didn't like her caravan. I mean, that's how young I had opinions. And it just sort of continued, through life. And I didn't fit into that highly religious mold. I had too much to say. I wasn't subservient enough. And the only way I was going to escape that was to actually exit. And going overseas, I fortunately didn't find a husband. Otherwise, I don't think I would have come back. I had to come back. But, I think the most amazing thing is, although they were hard times and it was like a tough upbringing, that deep desire to be accepted by society made me want to please people, and gave me this value system of wanting to really please people. All those no's, I wouldn't allow them to deter me. They became my driving factor, and offering anything close to the service levels I experienced in America became my value system in my personal life and my business life that I took on and continue to live with today.
All right, so that we're starting with a huge bang, and there's so many follow-up questions we've got. But I love at the core of it, and Greg, I'm tossing at you here as we move down a professional journey. But at the core of it, I love how you were intent on carving out your own path and not listening to those that were encouraging you to do traditional, that traditional path, or wanted you to do certain things. You really forge your own way, and I think that is a great lesson for anybody, and certainly one we're sharing with our kids here on the home front. But Greg, what did you hear there?
Yeah, I think that outsider's perspective is exactly what we need in supply chain, right? Today, Scott, I paraphrased something you shared with me the other day. Tradition is peer pressure from dead people, right? Best practice is the best excuse for this is the way we've always done it. And I feel strongly that we lean too much on that term, best practice, in supply chain. Our practices can be a lot better, and the world and technology and data and viewpoints, Nicci, like yours, allow us to take that outsider's perspective and to look at things differently and to approach them differently. So I'm curious, aside from your upbringing, in the various roles, your time in the States, tell me about some of the things that impacted how you view your professional viewpoint on the world.
So, returning back to South Africa around 21, I came back because my visa expired, and I was committed only to working long enough to get another visa and to buy another ticket overseas. But my family were not in a good place financially, and I felt like I had an obligation to help them. And I started working for an organization, but I could quickly see that the organization did not only share the same values, but they had no real purpose. They were just simply doing a sort of labor brokering function. They didn't look after their people. And 3 months in, the company the client that I was servicing was a major car rental company called Avis Rent-A-Car. And I approached the manager and said, look, I believe I can offer you a turnkey solution. I'm sure those weren't my words then, but they are today. A turnkey solution. And bearing in mind, I hadn't gone off to university. I had 12 years of high school. 12 years of school and not 12 years of high school. That sounds terrible. And
that's how you wind up in supply chain, Nicci, is 12 years of high school.
So maybe we should. He said to me, "Well, Nicci, if you can get a contract and get bank finance, we'll support you." With this big smile, I went off to a local bank, secured finance, and within a month, I was in business. And my job was to manage the distribution of the car rental vehicles from the major depots and from the airports to all the other depots. So overnight, the car rental companies basically have a look at all their bookings for the next day, and they shift their fleet to all those major city centers. My job was to get the fleet to those city centers. And I started with Avis, quickly moved into 2 or 3 other car rental companies. And within 18 months, I had 5 branches open, 250 drivers working for me.
Wow.
I was too young. I mean, I was 21. I was too young to drive the vehicles myself. I wasn't insurable. I had to be 25 to drive the vehicles.
Wow.
I was nicknamed the Ice Queen because I was really so cold and so hard, trying to play a role as such a young woman in an industry that was waiting for me to fail, if I could put it to you that way, because it was like, what is this woman actually doing here? And I did that for a while, about 5 years, and then I realized I wanted to make a change. And at that stage, there were a number of major big car carrier companies. So these are the companies that have trucks with trailers that you can stack cars on the back. These guys had ignored me. I mean, they were operating as a cartel. No one was, they all had organized their rates and their, specific routes. I came in with a 90-minute turnaround time from the time you gave me a telephone call to me having a driver at your depot to pick up a vehicle. This was unheard of because the industry was used to a 5-day turnaround time from pickup to delivery of a vehicle. So that turnkey operation, ensuring the vehicles, finding the drivers, supplying the petty cash for the whole route, all of that basically became something totally new to the industry. And on top of that, I was able to not only grow exponentially, but move into a separate industry, which was the commercial vehicle industry. So I started offering the same service levels to the commercial transporters. So this would be moving a big MAN or a Mack, a Volvo, a Scania, so all the big trucks. Oh, wow, we moved vehicles from up to top of Africa. It was an incredible logistics achievement in a very short time.
All right, so
Wow.
Greg, before you move forward, Jenny has nodded her head numerous times here. I think, and it looks like she's building her own 17 pages of notes as I am. Jenny, what's one thing that Nicci's already shared that really gets you going?
Oh, well, I mean, I'm still going back to the selling her first business at 19. So I'm pretty slow to catch up on that. But I had to do a good job for my jaw not to hit the ground. But, I going back to that, being 21 and presumably very beautiful, and just having to be a tough woman in what's traditionally a man's world. Hats off to you for actually sticking at it. And I know that there are multiple women listening to this who probably will have experienced the same sort of thing. So, full of what an inspiration.
Well said, Jenny. Well said. And Greg, the story doesn't stop there. I think that
first of all, I love the way, Nicci, you put it, playing the role of the Ice Queen, right? You had to sort of put on that identity, whether you felt it or not, because of the hurdles that existed in the industry. And I think a lot of people have done that. I think, I think young professionals today are fortunate to live in a world where they can actually be themselves and still succeed, right? Where people do want them to succeed rather than want them to fail, like you experienced. So it's encouraging. It's interesting, the words you chose. I wonder if that was intentional, or, did you feel like it was a role at the time, or do you realize it was a role now?
No, I think it was deliberate. To command that amount of drivers, because by that stage we had well over 250 drivers. We were moving convoys every single night worth a couple of $100 million, and I was self-insuring all of those vehicles. We had catastrophe insurance, but for the most part of it, it was my liability. So I became very hardened to the risk that I was exposed to, became very systems and process driven to mitigate the risk of moving these vehicles across the country. Most of those vehicles moved overnight because of the last minute. It was just in time deliveries that we were expecting. And there's no window for planning as such. So my success was in having good systems, in recruiting the right drivers, and having, we didn't have proper tracking systems. So we brought in satellite tracking units from Australia. They were about the size of a motorbike helmet. They were massive, and they sat on top of a truck like a big light, so you would think it was a light. The drivers hated carrying them. I mean, a new satellite dish is about this size now. But anyway, so we had to bring these in. We had to find communication systems for the drivers, because this was, we're talking about 2000. Cell phone technology only came into South Africa about 94, 95. Right. 96, somewhere around there. So, but I look back now and say I could not have done it without my family, because they all played such key roles. And as the youngest in the family, I became this matriarch, and that became an additional responsibility as looking after everyone. And I want to say to the woman out there that you actually don't need to be everything to everyone. As much as you're going to try to do that, I had children. I gave them to my husband literally as I came out of theatre and said, yeah, right, this is your job. I'm going back to work. And I didn't feel guilty until somebody told me I should feel guilty. What happened to the early childhood? And it was actually a psychologist when she was asking me for the dates of when did my child roll over and when did she sit, like, hell, I don't know. And then when did this child do this? So it's like, don't get so caught up in trying to play a role for everyone. You do your absolute best where you can, and you bring in people, or you have family that support you in the race. And I think that is a message that I would really like women to hear today.
Wonderful. And
yep.
Loud and clear and well received. What a wonderful message. I want to share a couple comments from our dear members of the community in the cheap seats, as I think Peter Bollet coined. And then, Greg, we're going to skip ahead for the sake of time, because I want to get the whole story out here, and we're going to dive into CTA. But first, as Rhonda says, so relatable. Kudos, Nicci, for keeping at it with confidence and conviction. Well said there, Rhonda. Let's see here. Peter says, I would have rather taken Ice Queen over some of the commentary he received for speaking truths. That's a great point. And Brandy says, yes, and welcome, Brandy. Great to have you back. She says, yes, I was constantly being told to be more empathetic by my male bosses in supply chain who had no empathy. Raise your hand if you had to deal with that. And Rhonda, thank you very much. Love these cheap seats. Hey, we love them too. We love who sits in them and all the POV that we get out of them. So Rhonda, thanks so much. And I'm going to follow up one last comment here from Rhonda. I recall having to work really hard to gain respect in an industry at 26 that was very male dominated in athletic departments, mostly composed of older men. So many stories for sure. Some very fun to recall, and some not so pleasant. Thick skin helped, and along with strong female mentors. So well said there, Rhonda. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah,
a lot more of that story, Greg and Jenny. But Jenny, at this point, I want to talk more about CTA. So let's dive into the business.
Yeah, it's one of the most exciting introductions that we've had, and I have to give a shout out to Claire for actually introducing SAPICS to Nicci and Nicci to SAPICS. And I'm just really excited about the work that the Commercial Transport Academy is doing and the whole intent behind it. Nicci, why did you form it, and what was the why really? What was your why around that?
It was the absence of women. Once I moved out of car rental and focused all my business attention in the trucking environment, I had to be very cautious of how I employed drivers. And because we moved a brand new truck off the production assembly line, we had to make sure we delivered that vehicle in that same condition. So it required me to employ drivers that today could drive a brand new Actros 3. Tomorrow they would climb into Euro 3 technology of an FAW. The next day they could be back into a Volvo on Euro 6. And these drivers had to be able to handle all these different vehicles. It required a skill set that is not really known. Most drivers have one truck and trailer, and that's the end of it for a certain period of time. But in all the time I was doing this, so whether that already started the CTA, there was just no woman coming forward. In the boardroom, I was very often alone. And if I wasn't, the women were in procurement or they were in HR, maybe admin. But they weren't female entrepreneurs. A study done by MasterCard in 2019 has confirmed this, that in the transport sector, women still make up less than 10% of the businesses that supply into the transport and logistics sector. And I couldn't understand why women are so afraid of this industry, because it's in our differences that we actually thrive in the sector. Because we have different thoughts and different ideas that we bring to the table. So my why was to make sure that I could create a company that could embrace the challenges and barriers that women are encountering and find solutions to those to bring women in. Coming back to that, not accepting a no as an answer was the main driver behind this.
So, Greg, if I can get you to weigh in here based on what she just shared and her why, and I love how the differences make us all stronger. I can't remember exactly how she put it, but Greg, what did you hear there that really inspired you?
Well, I mean, I think it's a delivery on the promise of mentoring other women, right? I mean, I think the thing that we talk with so many women in supply chain who've got similar stories. We talk to a lot of men, as Peter just pointed out, who the old guard have held down. I wouldn't say without discrimination, but the old guard have held down the new generations significantly, probably definitely disproportionately towards women and minorities. But I think that, we hear a lot of women say, I need female mentorship, I need female guidance, I need someone on my team pulling for me to help me through this. And this delivers on that with, resounding force. So that's the impactful thing, is to deliver on that, to see the need in the marketplace, to recognize it, you need it yourself, to recognize that others need it, and then to deliver on it is just so powerful.
Well said. Well said. And Jenny, I'm going to come back to you right after I share a couple of these comments here. Owalabi is with us once again. It's been a little while since we saw our dear friend Owalabi. Welcome via LinkedIn. Look forward to hearing your POV on today's conversation. And Brandy adds, she's speaking to Peter here, but I think it's really relevant. We also need to change the perception that strong men are good leaders and strong women are bitches. And that's Brandy's.
Or ice queens. Yeah.
Comments.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's so true.
Yes.
I totally agree with that. I mean,
and Peter also adds, never fear to fail, especially if you fail forward. Excellent point there, Peter. Okay, so Jenny, I'd love to get your take on this segment, and then, of course, we're going to drive a little deeper with getting more advice from Nicci.
Sorry, yeah, everybody's got them on my own now. Again, the whole concept behind CTA, I think one of the stories that you told me when we were talking was that, for example, in South Africa, there are 2 in the whole of the country, only 2 stops that actually cater for women truck drivers, from a facilities point of view. And that really resonated. And the more that I talk to you, the more that I just understand what an unsung backbone of the supply chain actually the commercial transport industry is. And I think that it's really important that people like you can work with people like us to create a platform of knowledge and recognition. And I know that Scott and Greg are doing an awful lot of this spotlight, not in Africa alone, but in America and ultimately, I guess, the rest of the world. But From your point of view, you talked about women being frightened of the profession. What would your advice be to women? I know that there's that you mentioned a bit about it's our ability to do things differently and to think differently that should make us shine in this profession. What other advice have you got for individuals looking to get into it?
Look, my greatest champions in my career have been men. I have always been very supported. And I think, when you're authentic in the way you handle people, and you come from a place of integrity and honesty, it's very easy for organizations to work with you. Going back to my previous company, in 2013, I had the most horrific internal fraud in the business at the hands of a serial fraudster. And I should have seen it, but my focus was elsewhere. And looming over me was the potential closure of my business. And I sat with my customers, and these were like blue chip companies, as I said, Mercedes-Benz, Volvo South Africa, MAN, Isuzu, and they had every right to basically cancel their contracts with me. Instead, what they did is they said one of them actually said, Nicci, how can we fund you to keep your business going? And they did, one did. Another turned around and said, we trust you enough to know that you're going to work through this process, and that we just have to keep in touch with you. And I think it's that you are your own brand. And depending on how you conduct yourself in business, we'll decide on whether those dividends pay off when you actually need that support, because it's a journey in business is just fraught with so many challenges and obstacles. It's not all easy. And when your hand is down and you need that support from your customers or your suppliers, I got that in spades, and it allowed me to pivot my business and sell it in 2018 to a JSE listed company, bringing me straight back to the CTA, where I thought, well, I'm going to do something a little less stressful than truck driving and logistics. And I committed to developing female commercial truck drivers. We have less than 1%. And I want to say, I don't know, I know she's not listening, but for those who know her, Ellen Voy of Women in Trucking USA is one of my absolute icons. She has done so much. When I spoke to her a couple of times, her energy and her compassion and her commitment to making it possible for women truck drivers to thrive, whether they're owner-operators or whether they're driving for an organization. I've taken that model and that mindset and brought that to South Africa to make sure that I can do the same for women here. And we have just recently, and I hope I'm allowed to talk about this because I've gone off subject here, Jenny, but we have landed funding from USAID. Once again, thank you, US. And we will be developing 915 women for the sector. So wow. 495 truck drivers, 120 professionals, and 300 entrepreneurs.
Awesome.
And that will be women in supporting the entire supply chain industry. But for me to bring truck drivers in, like Jenny was saying, is that we have to fix the ecosystem because there isn't one. So at this point, women can only do short haul deliveries. If they were to do long haul, they would have to go from employer's depot to depot because there's no truck stops for women. There's only 2 truck stops in the whole of the country, and we're talking about, oh God, I don't know how big South Africa fits into the US, but it's massive, the space that we have to cover with 2 truck stops. So when you look at that and you think, well, how are we going to change that? It's in conversations like this, it's creating that awareness. It's bringing all the parties together that are involved in logistics and saying, right, we need transformation of a sector. And that's what I hope to do.
All right. This is really exciting. I got to share a couple comments here as you got to that kind of inflection point and weren't sure if to proceed or not. Well, Peter says, hey, go, keep talking. And Brandy said, hey, we saw a little giggle from Greg and Scott there. Well, really, this is your show, Nicci. We're here just to make introductions and recognize our audience. But very inspiring. And there's a lot of talk about what needs to change. There's a lot of talk about the solutions and the things we need to do to create change. And then there's folks that go out and do it. And they go out and do it, and they risk, they put their own skin in the game and make the risks, and with no guarantees it's going to go anywhere, and that's what it takes. That's what it takes to change anything, whether we're providing opportunities for all folks and changing these ratios that are so, traditional and really meaningfully with outcomes. Putting that, as Sandra McQuillan has said, leaving that ladder down and that door open for others to walk right through it and walk through those doors and windows of opportunities. So I love what you're doing. I admire the skin in the game you're putting as a fellow entrepreneur. And I hope that you're going to inspire armies of other entrepreneurs to do the same thing. Because, Greg, we are fortunate to hear a lot of those stories where entrepreneurs that are oftentimes even new to global supply chain, they see the opportunities, they see the problems, whether they're societal or whether they're related to the craft, as you put it, and they bust through and they get a lot of resistance, as everyone here is talking about. But that's where the gains are made. So, Greg, what are some of the things that Nicci shared that you really enjoyed?
Well, the stunner is, I'm constantly reminded of Africa, right? We talked about this on the last show that Jenny you were on, of the availability of certain products and various types of things, but I had not thought of an entire country with no women's facilities in it. I mean, virtually an entire country. It might as well be. 2 is such a small sample as to be virtually meaningless. So I had not even thought about that as a possibility. And now I'm reflecting on, as I've stopped in whatever Love's Country stores or pilot stations here in the States, I'm kind of, which are plentiful, of course.
Right.
I'm thinking of whether I did at some point or even do now see women's facilities in those or what. But it's things like that they're just stunning, frankly, to me. But to realize that's what you've got to fight through, as well as the social and the cultural issues, the physical infrastructure is tough.
It's like a blind spot constraint, because I'd never thought about that either.
It's really hard to keep that in your perspective. I mean, it gives you some idea. And as Nicci, you experienced, you clearly experienced a supremely privileged American family, because I didn't even know. I didn't ever have the butcher show up at the house when I was a kid. but just the relative luxury and ease of life that we have here, relative to even inarguably the most civilized country in Africa, South Africa, right? I mean, it's the most European of all of the African countries, and for them to have this kind of infrastructure challenges, it's just stunning, frankly. And it goes to the challenge that Africa, all of the countries of Africa face. But I think it also goes to, and we talk about this a lot, and Nicci, I hope this is encouraging, but it also goes to the fact that things like cell phones came to Africa late, so they didn't experience the same thing with cell phone. Banking, the issues around banking, 80% of the entirety of the continent at one time was completely unbanked. So they just skipped the entire banking system in a number of countries in Africa, and people transact things with their phones and other devices rather than have bank accounts. And maybe there is some way for you, Nicci, and your organization to leap over the constraints that we have because of an established infrastructure and really pave the way, not just for women, not just for transportation, not just for Africa, but maybe even for the world, if there is a way to break through the whatever ceiling, the tradition and best practice of global supply chain. I feel like there's a great opportunity to just look at it from your outsider's perspective and really change things dramatically.
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah. And Nicci, I'll give you a chance to respond, and then we're going to kind of move the conversation to a more bigger picture. What comes to mind?
So there's, we have an opportunity right now, and It's not great for all, but it works for us. So one of the biggest challenges we incurred when I started training up women was finding employers that were willing to take on women, because it's just, they don't have facilities, they don't have policies. She's going to fall pregnant, God forbid. She's going to have a baby, and then, not just one, maybe she has 3 or 4, and then we've got to deal with maternity leave. And it was, I listened to all of this, and I'm like, dudes, really,
That's the best response I've ever heard, dude. Really.
No, they were born at some point, and there was a woman there. It's just the naivety, and so often the HR recruitment process is so skewed towards the recruitment of men. Simple things like a short lady kind of climb into a truck. The truck itself, many of them don't have the seats that are adjustable enough to be able to get somebody with short legs to the front of that vehicle. So there are physical constraints, there are social constraints, there's psychosocial constraints. And the most amazing thing after with all of that is women are so geared. So the programs that we're running a program with Volvo Trucks where we are developing women on a project called Iron Women. We are developing owner-operators. So these women will own their truck and get a contract with a mining company called Lafarge, a French company, for 5 years, and I will be developing their entrepreneurial skills over that period of time. We've got USAID, and we've got other companies, and all of them are now gearing. They're re-looking at their businesses from the inside out and saying, how do we make it possible for women to not only enter, but to remain in this industry? And I think that's incredible. I'm just so chilled.
I love that. Nicci, I couldn't wait for you to finish that point, because that is a wonderful mantra to live by and work by and lead by, and certainly put on back of our T-shirts. I mean, really, because we don't want anyone just to break in. We want them to break in and thrive and in a sustainable fashion. So that's a really important point. I want to share a couple of comments, and I got to share a thought that came out of our recording from yesterday. Let's see. Andrew says, very proud to be associated with Nicci and the CTA in this project. So, Andrew, thanks for being here with us. Mary Cummins, hope this finds you well. There are hundreds of U.S. companies in South Africa, including GM and CAT. And she had mentioned she spent 2 weeks there and really enjoyed it, but lots to overcome for equality. And, I think we all see opportunities, right, regardless of wherever it is. But great point there, Mary. Let's see here. And Francisco, to be honest, I was not even aware of the 10% that you referenced earlier, Nicci. Great to hear you're pushing to make things happen. Francisco, excellent point, and thanks for being here with us. One last thing, and by the way, Peter loves, I love this dude, really? That's worth the price of admission. Only that, Nicci, because that response really just implies how dumb, let's just face it, dumb and concern and question that is.
Yeah.
But I got to share this yesterday.
You were born at some point, dude. Nicci said.
And a couple of those comments from Nicci, I had to wait, and I looked over at Jenny to make sure it was okay to laugh. So once Jenny laughs, I can laugh, because I'm real cognizant, of those kinds of things. But anyway, so Mushai Kuniha is and I think I've got that right. It came really close, hopefully. He's chairman of the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, and CKL Africa is group CEO. And he really made a point, and I'm not going to do it as eloquently as he did, but in talking about the opportunities for industry across Africa and entrepreneurs and leaders, you name it, they have a unique opportunity not to do it like other parts of the world has done, including all the mistakes that have been made. And and that really was something that I hadn't really thought of. They're going to, like the banking that Greg pointed out, to do that we still in large degree don't have here. They can, going back to Nicci where it all started, they're going to forge their own path, and they're going to do it in an innovative and different manner, and they're going to be able to avoid many of the huge mistakes that other parts of the world made. So I think that is inspiring, at least to me, because it goes back to forging your own way and doing it on your terms and doing it in a new creative way. So I appreciate, Nicci, what you've shared along those lines here. But Jenny, what's before I take it more bigger picture? What's Greg and I have kind of both shared about what our favorite parts here. What have you really enjoyed?
Yeah, I'm with Peter about the dude. Really, I'd love to have been brave enough once upon a time actually to be that ballsy. I'm going to take lessons from you, Nicci. I love the idea of the sustainability of this project, and it's the building, it's the starting the building blocks. And as somebody said in the comments, I can't remember who, it's so easy for us all to sit and talk. And I think that, the last couple of months or 18 months or so, there's been a lot of talking because action's been hard. And watching what Nicci has achieved in this time, this is real action. This isn't just talk. And it's really exciting that I hope we're going to be along for the ride for a while to come. So it's exciting.
Absolutely. Jenny, I love that. And Greg, before I go big picture, I know as a serial entrepreneur yourself and are used to putting that skin in the game and building it and all the things that go with that, that's got to resonate with you, right?
It takes guts. It does, but it really takes guts when you don't have the underlying infrastructure, the underlying systems, or the underlying cultural support that you have in the States or other, I don't know what to call it, not to pigeonhole South Africa, but in the typical first world country, you have an incredible infrastructure, right? And cultural norms that are more acceptable of that, whether you are male or female, but certainly more if you're female. So to have overcome all of that and do this and to proudly, frankly, wear the moniker of Ice Queen and yet to realize that it was really only a role to play, not a person that you are. And to take that person and turn that person into someone so giving and so uplifting to other women and professionals and the profession. I think that's just, look, that's what we all strive for. In the end,
That's right.
I think we all want to make a lot of money and then give back. That's really, entrepreneurs never stop in any way.
No,
to
you don't.
continue by giving is great.
And Greg, on that point is that, one thing South Africa has that sets it apart from some of the other first world countries is the number of statutes that have been implemented that support women and support initiatives to bring women into the boardroom, to bring women into non-traditional occupations. Without those statutes, we wouldn't have achieved as much as we have. So we might not have everything right on one element, but we do have this massive drive from government recognizing the value of women. The other thing that has made it possible for me to achieve this is the little ecosystem that I have built around me in my supply chain. So my current projects to develop female truck drivers, we take them from driving just sort of the dinky cars up to having a commercial truck driver's license. And then from there, they do some theory around being a responsible truck driver. And there's a couple of weeks of theory. But it's in a key partner that I have, and it was Andy that was actually on the call just now. One Logics, which is also a JSE listed organization, and it's specifically a division called Truck Logics, who bought my company, has allowed me to place my learners at their premises to get work experience. So when my ladies finish their couple of months of training, they can drive up to 13 different brands of vehicles. So wow. When they actually go for a job interview, they're not overshadowed by and overwhelmed by the vehicle that they're climbing into. They literally just need to overcome their confidence issues. But it's just, without those people, without those SAPICS coming on board, and SAPICS has given us a special membership. So all of my students on the USA project will become members of SAPICS. And it took me many years to understand that I was part of supply chain. I saw myself as transport and logistics. I didn't see how I fitted into supply chain. And I only in hindsight, the more I got involved with supply chain, do I realize that I'm actually supply chain. I'm not transport and logistics. And I think that was a revelation on its own.
That's common. It's really very common to think of it that way. I think we're starting to think of supply chain as kind of the overarching principle,
Yes.
because we hear it from people in manufacturing all the time as well. We don't have anything to do with supply chain. We're in manufacturing, right? And I think we have to think of supply chain as the overarching principle, and all of these things as segments of the supply chain, including retail, right? So it's a new
Yes.
world.
It is a new world. Yeah. So
I've been on mute. Sorry. I was agreeing with all of y'all. So
I saw your head nodding.
supply chain is the business, as Jeff has coined. I mean, there's a supply chain for everything, and even in the content and information aspect, there's a supply chain there. So, and as our dear friend Dominic Zwinkels shared, and we just lost Greg, Jenny, no product, no program, right? And we've referenced that 1,000 times. It's so true. Okay. I want to share a couple comments, and then we're going to make sure folks know how to connect with Jenny and Nicci, and we'll see if Greg rejoins us. He was on he's dialed in from the road in Chicago, I think, in a makeshift conference room. So we'll see if he can regain. First off, Prince is from Africa, the Democratic Republic of Congo. He's looking for an opportunity in supply chain, even an internship. He's a student in the maybe he's on a master's program for supply chain management at Pantheon. So Prince, connect with folks. We pride ourselves on hoping to be serving as a connector organization, and hopefully you'll reach out and connect with folks at a minimum on LinkedIn, and we'll see what we can shake the trees and find. Peter says, going back to our earlier point, put up or keep the crap trap shut, as Peter puts it. I love that. All right. Looks like Greg is back with us. Greg, good. Greg, how you doing?
There I am bragging on the U.S. infrastructure and gone in an instant.
And
I thought you'd gone for cheesecake.
As Jenny stated too, it truly takes
way.
a village.
Yeah.
And hopefully you're going to bring all those goodies back with you. I'm very jealous, but it truly does take a village across, and it takes a wide variety of folks and leaders from different walks of life to work together to change things and to support each other while that change is being in a very difficult manner is being made. So I love this conversation we had here today. Let's make sure, Nicci, that folks that want to connect with you and connect with CTA, what's the easiest way for that to happen?
it's probably to go to our website, which is www.c-t-a.co.za. From there, you will find my contact details, and you will find my email address. I think my phone number is even listed on my website. And also LinkedIn, Commercial Transport Academy on LinkedIn would also be another one.
Wonderful. Well, Nicci, really appreciate what you've shared here today. Really appreciate your time. But Jenny, let's make sure folks can connect with you and all the great things that SAPICS is doing these days.
Yeah, thanks very much. And I will say it again, this is the fastest hour ever. I knew this would be fast, but it's just whizzed by. Yes, so SAPICS, you can contact us. It's www.sapics.org, or find me on LinkedIn or on Twitter. I'm quite active on both. So look forward to, and Prince, Kijana, meaning small boy or small child in Swahili. Please, by all means, reach out to me and I'll see what I can do. I've got some nice contacts now in DRC.
That is wonderful. That's what it's all about. And, of course, SAPICS has got their big annual conference coming up in September, I believe. Is that right?
No, August. End of August, 24th to 26th of August.
That's right.
And hopefully we can reprise this gathering, because Nicci's going to be speaking, and hopefully we can have some time with Scott and Greg as well.
Well,
all online. One day we'll be in Cape Town. What can I say?
Right.
Yes. Soon, but what a home run speaker to add to that outstanding lineup that you always have, Jenny. So you can find out more information about that event at sapics.org as well, right? Okay, all right. So huge thanks to Nicci Scott. Let's see, I was pulling my notes from the other show as I was reminding myself what points I wanted to share. But Nicci Scott is CEO with Commercial Transport Academy. Nicci, thanks so much. And, of course, big thanks, of course, to Jenny Froome, COO of SAPICS. We look forward to reconnecting very soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
I wasn't sure if that swoosh was going to take hold. We might would have had
I wasn't sure if I was going to be here when it came back.
Oh man, what a inspirational. Gosh, my words fail me. But just kind of the background, early company at 19, fighting through all the traditional noise and constraints and obstacles, and then to get to the position now after all the success that she's experienced, to get in a position now to really give back and help others that are fighting through that same stuff, that are fighting through that same really conversations, do it on their own. That's wonderful.
Yeah, it is. And I think, one of the things that I think about is what an opportunity for her to have traveled internationally. I mean, whether it was the States or anywhere else, traveled internationally and seen what could be, to inspire her to kind of, it feels like it almost came together with her outsider type feeling, right? A lot of times that is someone who just can't understand the status quo and why the status quo is what it is. And then when you see it could be something different, it congeals those thoughts in your mind.
Agreed.
International travel, anytime you can experience something other than what you experience every day is so powerful. But for better or for worse, when we talk about diversity, that's really what we mean is diversify your surroundings, diversify the people that you hang with, get diverse opinions, right? Different cultures, different, genders, all of those things are so powerful. Just experience life in a way outside your personal bubble, and it's just so powerful. And I really feel like that helped catalyze her initiative, but also to give her some sense of purpose other than just feeling like an outsider, right?
Yeah.
Knowing that there are other people out there like you, or that, see the silliness or the opportunity, however you choose to see it, of your current state. I think that's terribly valuable.
Yeah. Well put. Couldn't put it any better. What a great guest. So Nicci, our newest dear friend, of course, Jenny Froome, I think we're third cousins with now. We're all family. And love these conversations. They're inspiring and motivating and really informative. Going back to the facilities comments and eureka moments we had here. Mm-hmm. So, folks, be sure to connect with Nicci and Jenny and their respective organizations. Huge thanks to them for their time here today. Big thanks to Amanda and Clay and Natalie behind the scenes, kind of producing today's live stream. And Greg, we're going to have you back soon. Thanks for tuning in from the road. I hope you enjoy the next couple of well-deserved days exploring Chicago. I think it's not your first trip there, but I think first time Vicky's been there, so I know that y'all have
she's
a lot
like
of
a
fun.
kid in a candy store. Literally, I think she's been in a candy store recently. So,
okay. Well, I can't finish the live stream without talk about resiliency. This guy and the Hawks, Trae Young and the Hawks, closing the door on the Knicks last night. And the Knicks were playing dirty basketball, and the Hawks just kept coming. It really was there are so many business takeaways from watching that game last night. But I love that, and good luck to all the Atlanta Hawks as they take on, I think, the 76ers next. But talk about keep coming and resilience and making it happen and outcomes. This conversation was a perfect illustration of that here today. So on behalf of our entire team, including Greg White and Amanda and Clay and Natalie and everyone else, this is Scott Luton signing off for now. Have a wonderful rest of your week. But most importantly, be like Nicci and Jenny. Do good. Give forward. Be the change that's needed. Sorry, I almost messed that up. And we'll see you next time right here at Supply Chain Now. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.